begin with the news from the United Kingdom. Former British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has quit as a Member of Parliament. This comes a day after it emerged that he received a parliamentary report by lawmakers over misleading statements he made to Parliament about the so-called Partygate. In a lengthy resignation statement, Johnson labelled the Parliament's Privileges Committee, which is the main disciplinary body for lawmakers, as a kangaroo court and accused opponents of trying to drive him out. Johnson took on the Rishi Sunak government, blaming the current Prime Minister for rising taxes, not being conservative enough, and failing to make the most of Brexit. Johnson writes, and I quote, "When I left office last year, the government was only a handful of points behind in the polls. That gap has now massively widened. Just a few years after winning the biggest majority in almost half a century, that majority is now clearly at risk," unquote. He goes on to say that our party needs urgently to recapture its sense of momentum and its belief in what this country can do. We need to cut business and personal taxes, and not just as pre-election gimmicks, rather than endlessly putting them up, unquote. Johnson also accused the committee of having still not produced a shred of evidence that he knowingly or recklessly misled the House of Commons. Johnson was accused of misleading Parliament over parties held in Downing Street while the UK was under COVID restrictions during the pandemic. Johnson ended his statement by stating, and I quote again, "It is very sad to be leaving Parliament, at least for now, but above all, I'm bewildered and appalled that I can be forced out anti-democratically by a committee chaired and managed by Harriet Harman with such egregious bias," unquote. Several people reacted to Johnson's resignation, calling it shocking.
I think, thank you, by the way, everybody, for all your...
For a moment, though, there's some joy that Boris Johnson is standing down as Member of Parliament. I think it's really important to remind everybody that this Privileges Committee has a Conservative majority. It includes people, arch Conservatives like Sir Bernard Jenkins. And the idea that this is some sort of stitch-up is for the birds.
Responding to the resignation, the Privileges Committee, which has been investigating the former Prime Minister for more than a year, said that Johnson impugned the integrity of the House by his statement. The committee said that it will meet on Monday to conclude its inquiry and will publish its report soon. Boris Johnson's shocking resignation will now trigger a by-election for his constituency in West London. Johnson's resignation will likely be seen as a revenge on Sunak, whose stories are well down in the polls, with the general election looming next year.
Well, you're back at work, Prime Minister.